Hey, you can get some cool and fun rewards for helping me help kids. Stick around after the video for more information.
The truth will set you free. The truth will set you free.
Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Right now I'm going to attempt to examine the Bible and dissect some of the churchy language that we can easily take for granted, digging into history and languages when I'm able to try and get at the heart of the text so that we can hopefully see and then apply some of what God has for us in these words today. Now I'm not formally trained in Scripture, I'm just a guy using resources and a questioning mind to try and get at the truth, and that's something that we can all do, so I hope you'll be doing that with me. We've been looking at the book of James, and we've arrived going chapter by chapter, verse by verse. We are now at chapter 3, looking at verses 13 through 18, which in the ESV reads, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace." All right, so going verse by verse, looking at verse 13 first, I'll read that again. "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom." The Greek word for wise here was a label Jews used at the time for their teachers, scribes, and rabbis. And the accompanying word for understanding describes an expert with special knowledge or training. So James seems to still be focusing on those who take on the formal role of teachers in their local church communities. Although there are certainly principles here that can and should be applied to anyone who communicates an opinion or truth claim to anyone else. So that's all of us that spend any amount of time communicating on the internet, right? The weight given to a person's words should be established by the outworking of their character in day-to-day life. Specifically, James points to the meekness of wisdom, he says, as being instrumental in this. The Greek word translated as meekness here requires a little bit of unpacking because it doesn't have an easy-to-understand English equivalent. It's a kind of humility and gentleness, but it doesn't lack strength. Instead, it's infused with purpose. It was a word used to describe a horse that was no longer wild, but trained to submit to a bit and bridle as his rider directed. So it has this focused purpose now, but still all the power of the horse. And as the verse indicates, it's a quality that comes from wisdom, or is characteristic of wisdom. Additionally, the concept of wisdom here is not the sort of theoretical, intellectual, and detached sort of wisdom that we might associate with the stereotypical guru on the mountaintop. It's the very practical wisdom that enables a person to live in line with God's purposes. So those who presume that their words should have weight, and I think that's all of us at times, we think that our words should be considered and given weight by other people. All people that want their words to have weight need to live humble, purposeful, and God-honoring lives through their day-to-day activities and interactions with other people. Now verses 14 through 16, again, that says, "But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice." The particular construction of the Greek in verse 14 indicates that James is not speaking about a hypothetical situation here, but that his readers actually did have existing bitter jealousy and selfish ambition among them. This instruction was probably in connection to James' warning that not many of them should aspire to be the teachers in their communities. Evidently, there were believers in these communities who were jealous of the position that others had in their churches and wanted to obtain similar positions, even if that involved being boastful and untruthful about their motives. James exposes this activity for what it really is. Rather than being wisdom derived from God, it's characteristic of an earthbound perspective, just separated from God's influence. A pattern of living James goes so far as to describe as demonic. Then James points out where this kind of motive and mentality leads. The Greek word for disorder here was used to describe political turmoil and uprisings. Jealousy and selfish ambition in the local church doesn't merely lead to a lack of efficient organization. It leads to disruptions that split entire church communities and create environments where every kind of sin can flourish. Now verses 17 and 18 say, "But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace." Contrasted with the false and superficial wisdom of the selfishly ambitious, godly wisdom is untainted by sin of any kind. Sin is not in the mix. A truly wise person is one who seeks relational peace with others, is gentle with people and able to be reasoned with and persuaded by reason, is helpfully compassionate and patient with those who do wrong, does not show favoritism, and is transparent and authentic with people. The result of this kind of wisdom, true, genuine, godly wisdom, in practice, is this atmosphere being created that's conducive to people living lives in line with God's heart. All right, so what's in all this for geeks, right? A lot of us geeks often feel overlooked and underappreciated, and we can feel that way even in our own churches. In fact, in the last few months, I have had those feelings in my own church. In my case, after taking a harder look at myself, I realized that those feelings were illegitimate and based on both an overestimation of myself and a desire to have a more elevated social status. That desire was really hard for me to detect for a while because it was mixed in with genuine desires to serve and be helpful in my church. But as I really thought about the recognition and position I felt I should have, I had to admit that the selfish parts of my desires were stronger than I had realized, and that I am already serving in my church in ways that suit me well and are actually more socially elevated than I deserve. That feeling of being overlooked and underappreciated, even if it is legitimate, can easily feed or spring out of selfish desires. I'm grateful that I think I caught my own sin before anyone at my church noticed it, but it was already resulting in a negative attitude about others, just mentally, deep inside, hidden that no one could see, that created this sort of mental distance between me and them. Distance that they wouldn't have noticed yet because it was just in my mind, but distance that was still there and probably growing and on its way to something they eventually would notice and that would affect others. So much of geek entertainment, I've noticed, is about a chosen one or a special person rising out of the crowd or rising from humble position and doing something amazing that eventually everyone sees. I don't know of any geek fiction heroes who remain faithful, unseen cogs in a machine, living useful, selfless, yet often invisible lives. Maybe you can think of one, but it's obviously really freaking rare, right? But that is what we must be willing to pursue. We have to throw away the idea that doing something significant with our lives means that other people will take notice of us. Jesus was God in human form, but he didn't walk around with like a shaft of light around him and a thundering voice that shook the ground. Although he did the most amazingly significant thing in human history, to everyone else it just looked like a meaningless death. Even when we think about like the miracles that he performed and the things that he did, most people reject Jesus. Most people reject him for who he said that he was, and they find some other way to describe him or think of him that is not actually who he was. So he is massively, massively overlooked throughout all of history, despite being such a significant figure, you know. Philippians 2:3-8, I think, summarizes what we should aspire to, especially in light of who Jesus is and what he did. It says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross." And so I look at those words and I have to ask myself, am I willing to be that overlooked and ignored? If I'm honest, most times I'm not, but I want to be. I want to be. If you'd like some help finding a good church in your area, I would love to help you do that if I can. Online resources and communities are good supplements, but by nature they just can't speak to your particular situation like relationships in a local church can. The context for almost everything in the New Testament assumes that we're serving and building purposeful relationships in a local church. So whether you're in a church that just kind of lacks Bible-based intentionality or maybe not attending any church at all, if I can help you get connected to an authentic, compassionate, Bible-oriented church, I want to do that. You can email me at paeter@spiritblade.com, and we can look at some websites of churches in your area together. Hey, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. For my 6th consecutive year, I'm participating in Extra Life, a charity event that raises funds to provide medical care for children in urgent need. I'm also leading the Christian Geek Central Extra Life team, which you're still welcome to join by following the link in the description below. Once again this year, I'm drawing attention to our team's fundraising by performing a 24-hour marathon of video gaming that I will stream live on youtube.com/ChristianGeekCentral and christiangeekcentral.com beginning 6 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday, November 2nd. You can donate on my page or on any team member's page by following the links below, where you will also find incentives and rewards for doing so. For example, on my page, for $5 or more, you can choose a topic to add to my +3 page of many topics that I'll be blabbing my opinions on during the live stream. For $10 or more, you get the previous reward and a download code for a free copy of the Spirit Blade Special Edition audio drama. For $20 or more, you get the previous rewards and you can choose a game for me to play during my November 2nd live stream. Pick a favorite or torture me with something terrible or rage-inducingly difficult. For $30 or more, you get the previous rewards and you can choose a song for me to sing during my November 2nd live stream. Pick an old favorite of yours or just make me humiliate and torture myself with something no one wants to hear. And for $50 or more, you get all the previous rewards and a download code for every MP3 product at spiritblade.com. That's an $80 value. On top of that, I've set fundraising milestones that will unlock strange and unusual happenings as I reach them. At $200, I'll have a free download day for everyone who visits spiritblade.com on November 6th. And as my total goes beyond $200, I'll unlock increasingly more content for that free download day. I will also let my boys tickle me for 1 minute straight during my November 2nd live stream. And depending on how far beyond $200 my fundraising goes, I will cover my face in peanut butter and jelly while talking about horror movies, put on a Frozen Solid t-shirt the morning of my live stream while playing video of me singing soothing classical music at my senior recital in college, shoot water up my nose with a turkey baster, get my wife Holly to play a game with me for 30 minutes of the live stream, or the grand granddaddy of all milestones, squirm intensely, mortified while showing an embarrassing video clip from the original stage version of Spirit Blade. Now, there are some stipulations and time limits on those rewards and milestones, so quickly follow the link below to my fundraising page for all the details. I hope you'll be a part of helping me and the Christian Geek Central team do some good for some kids who really need it. And then, please join me at youtube.com/ChristianGeekCentral for my 24-hour marathon starting at 6 a.m. Pacific on Saturday, November 2nd. Hope to see you there.